Okay, and welcome to the SB 1383 informational webinar for businesses. We'll give just one more minute for folks to join us, and then we will go ahead and get started with the webinar. Okay, in the interest of time, we're going to go ahead and get started with the webinar. So thank you very much for joining us. My name is Jennifer Gilbert. I am a conservation coordinator with the City of Davis. And with me here today is Sarah Zuniga with Recology Davis. She's a zero waste specialist with Recology Davis. Also assisting with the webinar in the background is Don Calciano, another conservation coordinator with the City of Davis, and Adrian Heinig, who is an assistant to the director. So thank you for joining us. Next slide, please. So this webinar today, we're going to cover some of the basics of the new state SB 1383 regulations, what the purpose and goals of the regulations are, and then most importantly, how this applies to businesses in Davis. Along with each section, as we're talking about the four main things that businesses need to know about the regulations and how these four main things that businesses will have to kind of look at. With each one of those, we'll cover some resources that the city and the state have available, and Recology has available for businesses as well. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So next slide, please. So first of all, what is Senate Bill 1383? So this is legislation from 2016. So it's been a little while. But this regulation in 2016 aimed to reduce carbon emissions, specifically by targeting methane emissions. And one of the things they're looking at is methane emissions from landfills. So the regulation set two main goals as far as solid waste goes, which is why we're here talking about it today. One of the goals was to reduce the amount of organic waste that is sent to landfills. They had two targets: to reduce by 50% by 2020, which was not met, and then another target of 75% reduction by the year 2025. There's another goal of diverting, rescuing food, edible food that would have otherwise been disposed of, to instead of sending that food for disposal or composting, to make sure that edible food is getting into the hands of people who are hungry. So they're looking for a 20% increase in that by the year 2025. And next slide, please. So why does the state have this new law? So there's a couple of really important reasons. First of all, we are in a bit of a climate crisis at the moment, and with carbon emissions creating greenhouse gases and such. What's interesting is the state has determined through waste characterization studies that more than 50% of what is sent to landfills is what they consider organic waste. So organic waste in the state's eyes means anything that was derived from an animal or a plant. So that includes things like paper, cardboard, and the things that we typically in Davis think of as organic waste, right? So yard materials, food scraps, food sold paper products, things like that. But all of those organic products in a landfill, when it decomposes, it generates methane gas. 20% of the state's methane emissions comes from landfills, from these organic wastes that are decomposing. And organic waste, or sorry, methane is 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide. So when we're looking at solving this climate crisis, reducing greenhouse gases, targeting the methane emissions that come from landfills is actually one of the big things that the state's trying to do. Next slide, please. So how have we gotten here? So the SB 1383 legislation was in 2016, but it wasn't until 2020 of November that the regulations for these goals were actually finalized. Davis has been an active participant in the rulemaking process since the beginning. So we've been sending letters to the state and watching the regulations as they've been developed. We didn't even get a copy of the final regulations until February last year. So here we are now in January. The regulations went into full effect January 1, and they are quite a bit. The regulations are what we like to call purposely prescriptive. We'll talk a little bit more of that in the next slide or so. But they're unlike any other solid waste regulation that the state has come up with, where they just tell cities and counties or businesses, have a program that's kind of like this, recycle this stuff somehow. This is very different. This regulation is extremely specific. You must put recycling bins exactly here. They must be this color. They must have these labels. I'm not kidding. It's very specific. And this is something that we haven't seen before. We did have to update the city municipal code in December of 2021 so that our municipal code is updated with what these new state regulations say. So now the city's municipal code is echoing what these state regulations actually say. And there are 5 elements, as you can see on this chart here. There are 5 elements of the program of the SB 1383 regulations that the city is in charge of overseeing. We're not talking about all of these because not all of these apply for businesses, but just so you know, there's a lot that's involved in this regulation. Next slide, please. So I wanted to show you a glance of the future. So part of the regulations require, and I'll come into this in the next slide, that we have a standardization of waste bins throughout the state. Part of that means that some of our bins that Recology uses are going to be updated over time to have new colors. So this is the future of waste collection in Davis. These are the colors that you will be seeing eventually for all the waste bins. So right now, commercial recycling bins are green. Eventually, they're going to be blue, light blue and dark blue, because yes, the state actually says they must be light blue and dark blue. And the green is going to become organics. And we'll get into why on the next slide. So next slide, please. So part of what SB 1383 is trying to address is the fact that despite all of the state's increasing regulations over the years about making sure that waste is recycled and recyclables and organics are kept out of the landfill, despite all of the different efforts statewide, the statewide recycling rate has actually been dropping. Not in Davis, but statewide. So the state did a lot of research to figure out why that's happening. And one of the main takeaways from their research is that recycling is complicated. It's challenging. It's different wherever you go. Well, over here where we live, the organic bins are green and you can take these materials. And over here in this other city where I used to live, you know, the organic bins are yellow and you can put these things in them. So the state is aiming to make some across the board, everything looks the same in California. Wherever you go in California, if you see a green bin, it's for organics. And that means you can put this stuff in there. Wherever you go, if you see a blue bin, that means recycling and you can put this stuff in there. Because believe it or not, even in Davis, we see blue bins that are for trash, and that can get confusing. So the state is looking to make some changes to make it a little bit more clear for everybody how we can sort our waste. Now, the good thing is that in Davis, most of these regulations have actually already been required since 2016. We've had mandatory organics and mandatory recycling since 2016. We haven't actively enforced that. So, and then what changes mostly is not just you have to have these bins, but what changes is the additional steps. So in Davis previously, and since 2016, you've had to have organic service, you've had to have recycling service, and you have to sort your waste into the right bin. What's changing is the details. Now the state says, okay, but that bin has to be this color. You have to have bins next to every trash can. You have to have labeling on it, all that, the details. And that's what's different is those details. So when we're going through this, just remember, we've had these services, and Sarah's going to talk a little bit about the services that Recology provides. But what's changing is these details, and these details are coming from the state. This is statewide. It's not just Davis. So businesses statewide will be dealing with this. Now, Davis is a step ahead because we've already had these programs in place. A lot of cities and counties, they're scrambling to try to get organics programs in place right now. They don't currently collect food scraps. We already do, so we're already way ahead of the process. Next slide, please. Okay, so the 4 things that we're going to talk about that businesses need to be aware of, the 4 main requirements for businesses are these here. You have to have recycling and organic waste collection service. Again, this has been required since 2016 in Davis. Then the next part is about the placement of these recycling and organics bins. Now we're talking about placement of bins inside your business. So the number one is talking about the Recology carts that are available. Number two is talking about the bins that are inside your business that you provide for your customers, for your employees. And then there's some annual education that's required by the regulations. And then finally, contamination monitoring. So we'll go over all of those requirements. Next slide, please. Okay, for organic and recycling waste collection services. So there's two options that are available. According to the regulations, you can either have an adequate, and we'll talk about what adequate means later, adequate recycling and organic collection service. Now in Davis, we have an exclusive franchise. So if you have organic waste service and recycling service, you have that service through Recology Davis, which is why I have Recology here today. So Sarah can talk about that. And this service includes the paper recycling carts, the containers carts, the organics carts. And when we say adequate, what we mean by adequate is adequate service means that you can collect all of the recyclables and all of the organics from your business. So if you have adequate service, you have enough space in all your carts, and those carts are serviced frequently enough that you don't have to worry about running out of space, so that no organics and no recyclables go into the trash. That's what adequate means. The other option that businesses have available is you can choose to self-haul your recyclables and organics. If for whatever reason you do not want to have Recology service, businesses can petition to self-haul their waste themselves. If businesses wish to go that route, and again, this is part of the state regulation, this is not the city of Davis, the state requires that you have to petition the city for permission to do this, which means you fill out a form and say, I'd like to self-haul my waste. You have to keep track of all of the organics and all of the recyclables that you collect, where you bring them, and save all of the receipts for that. It's a lot. If businesses want to do this, you are welcome to. Again, this is a state requirement. So we are working on all of the forms that we will have for this available, as well as a record keeping form to help you keep track of this if you want to go this route. And as Sarah's going to talk about, having the recycling and organic service might be your easier route, especially since it's part of your regular trash service that you don't pay for. It's the recycling service especially. So next slide, please. And with that, I will turn it over to Sarah to talk about the Recology collection service.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for all that good information leading us up to the Recology collection service. So for recycling service, all of the businesses in town should have access and must have access now with these requirements to a paper recycling cart and a containers recycling cart. Any businesses that do not have access to both are being delivered those carts. And if for any reason you do not have those delivered yet, a few are still needing to be delivered, please give us a call to check and make sure that we are going to be delivering those. So again, a containers recycling and a paper recycling is required at all businesses. And when it comes to the recycling service, it is free. There is no cost, and you can have an unlimited amount of recycling carts. So if you have space, you can call us up at the number listed on the bottom of the slide and get as many recycling carts as you need. So that way you can reach that adequate service level. And we have an unlimited number of carts that can be provided, or up to 5 times per week collection service. So that's Monday through Friday, you can have those carts serviced. And so call us up if you need more service, please. Now, organics collection service. With this, there's not unlimited amount for free, but all businesses do have one organics cart at their use with each trash collection service. So for non-food waste businesses, that is the 95-gallon organics cart, and it's serviced 1 time per week. And with food waste businesses, that's usually restaurants or grocery stores, that is our 65-gallon organics cart serviced 2 times per week. If you find that that is not an adequate level of service for your business, you can choose to add more service by calling our office, and you can have as many carts as you need. Again, those do come with additional fees. And those carts can be serviced up to 5 times per week, Monday through Friday. And if it goes past the base level service of 1 time per week for a 95 gallon or 2 times per week for 65 gallon, there are additional fees with that. Next slide, please. Okay, cardboard collection. So businesses that generate a lot of cardboard are eligible to receive a cardboard bin. And I didn't mention, but cardboard service, like recycling service, is free. A limited amount of cardboard collection is provided for free. And so the cardboard bin is for businesses that generate a lot of cardboard. And so if you find that you need a cardboard bin, you don't already have one, give our office a call and we can see if we can get you a cardboard bin. And those can be serviced Monday through Friday, up to 5 times a week. And again, they're mainly for the large generators of cardboard. Now, all businesses have our loose cardboard collection service. If you have a small amount of cardboard you generate at your business, then the cardboard is collected by our recycling drivers that pick up the carts. They're supposed to grab small amounts of cardboard while they're picking up carts. If you're one of our businesses that generates a fair amount of cardboard, but maybe not enough to warrant getting a cardboard bin, and you just have quite a lot of loose cardboard flattened, then our cardboard driver would come to you. And so this is a separate driver from the one that picks up the carts. It's a completely separate route. And if you find that your cardboard your generation of cardboard is increasing and you want to know whether or not you're on a cardboard route or you feel that you need to be on one, give our office a call. Again, 530-756-4646, and ask to be placed on a cardboard route if you are not already. One very important thing when it comes to your cardboard service is all businesses need to make sure that cardboard is flattened and with all packaging material removed from cardboard before service day. This is going to help ensure that your service day goes smoothly. Thank you. Next slide.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, and it is essential that all businesses have some space, some place to put cardboard, because the cardboard cannot go into the paper recycling cart. If you have small pieces of cardboard, it can, but the large pieces, they can't go into the cart. They actually get stuck in the truck when it's emptied. So make sure that the larger pieces of cardboard are broken down, flattened, packing materials removed, and have a designated space where those can go. That can be as simple as like a sign, like you saw in the previous slide, or a chalk on the ground, a marking wherever, just so that your employees know where to put the cardboard for recycling, or if it's a multifamily property, so that your tenants know where they can place cardboard for recycling. So thank you, Sarah. So back to self-hauling, a little more information on that. If a business does choose that they don't want to use the Recology service for whatever reason, and you would like to self-haul your recyclables and organic waste, so you would submit the self-haul form. These forms are just getting finalized right now. They'll be on our website soon. So you fill out the form and you send it to the city, and we'll review it and make sure that everything on there meets the requirements of the state regulation. You have 2 options. You can either choose to continue sorting all your waste. So you would have bins set up at your store or at your business where you would separate all the organics and all the recyclables. And then you would take all of those recyclables to a recycling center. You would take the organics to a composting facility. And you have to indicate on the form which facility that is. Again, this is part of the state regulation. The other option is that you can choose not to sort any of your waste, and you can bring it all to what the state considers a high diversion waste facility. These are facilities like they have over in Roseville, where all the waste goes and gets sorted and separated out. So that's an option. You'd have to actually bring it to that facility, save all of your receipts to show that that waste has been separated. And of course, the tipping fees at those facilities usually are rather high because they have to sort all this waste. So those are options that are available under the state law, and we will have forms and processes and all information about how that could work for your business if you choose to do that. And all of this information will be updated on our website. Next slide, please. Okay, the next, before we go on to the next part, there's one section of organics collection that I want to mention. It does not apply to most businesses that are on this call probably, but the regulation does have a whole component on edible food recovery, as we mentioned before. So starting in January 1 of this year, certain businesses are required to start recovering edible food for donation to food recovery organizations for people to eat, right? This is a very small number of businesses. We're talking 7 businesses in Davis. And if it's your business, you've already received a notification. It's basically grocery stores and supermarkets. So if your business is not a grocery store or a supermarket, this does not apply to you. Starting in 2024, however, the regulation for who needs to be recovering edible food also includes really large restaurants, large hotels that have a certain number of rooms, and other businesses as well, as you can see on the slide. But that's not until 2024. And we have identified which businesses those are in town, and we will be reaching out to them at a later date. It's a little early to be talking to them yet because this is a few years down the road. But those businesses will be receiving information from us directly. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so what resources, I know this is a lot. So what resources does the city, does Recology, does the state have available? So first of all, Sarah has fantastic waste audits that she provides as part of Recology Davis. The contract with Recology that the city has, Recology performs free waste audits. So you can contact Recology and make an appointment. Sarah will come out to your business, take a look at your current waste service, how much, what's your trash service look like? How many organics carts do you have, your recycling carts? How are you sorting waste? Maybe there's different ways that they can help change your service level so that you have better access to recycling. Take a look at how things are being recycled right now. She can provide you with a wealth of information that can help your business to sort waste and make sure that you have the service that you need. After you have a completed waste audit, Sarah has a bunch of materials that the city has provided to Recology for businesses. And that includes posters and labels and bins, yes, recycling bins and or some organic bins that businesses can have to help them get their program set up. Now, there are limits on how many we have. The supplies are available as long as we have them. And we have a limited number that we can give to each business, but that is some things that we have available. We also have on our website a variety of flyers and posters and bin labels that you can download to relabel some things that you have as well. Next slide, please. Okay, here's the fun part. The placement of recycling and organic waste bins. Okay, this is the second thing that businesses need to know about. So after you ensure that you have the required service level, now that you take a look inside your business and see where you have trash bins, recycling bins, organic bins inside your business. So there's 3 main things. Well, 4. Okay, 4 main things. So first of all, any bins that you have available for customers. So these are bins that customers would have access to. So any area where a customer would be, including restrooms, if you have restrooms available for customers, okay? So the state law says that any trash bin that your customers would see also have to have a recycling and an organic waste bin next to it. Now, that sounds like it should be 3 bins, right? But in Davis, we separate paper from bottles and cans. So it's actually 4 bins. So just like you see here in this picture, anytime a customer would see a trash bin, they need to see all 4 bins. Restrooms are exempt, sort of. For a restroom, if your restroom has paper towels, you need to have an organics bin in the restroom to collect the paper towels. That's all. You don't have to have the paper recycling bin. You don't have to have the containers bin. You don't need to have recycling and compost bins in the restroom stalls. It's just if you have paper towels by the sinks, you need to have an organics bin to collect paper towels. If you don't have paper towels because you have hand dryers, you don't need to worry about it. But if you have paper towels, there has to be an organics bin. And the reason for this is that the city has found through audits that a large percentage of the organic waste that's generated from businesses, particularly offices, is paper towels. So in order to meet the requirements for the contamination monitoring, which we'll get to later, businesses would need to be collecting paper towels from restrooms. Otherwise, you would be continually flagged for contamination. So this is actually helping you to get past that point where you wouldn't have to worry about being flagged for contamination, which we will again cover later. Okay, the other part to consider is that, so the bins for customers, bins for restrooms, we've dealt with that. All the rest of the bins in your business that only employees have access to, okay? So the regulation says that for all of those bins, you have to have what they call adequate, again, the word adequate, an adequate number, size, and enough of them placed, right, to collect all the organics and recyclables generated from your business. So does that mean that you have to have a recycling bin and an organics bin next to each trash bin? Maybe, maybe not. It depends. You have to make sure that your employees and your contractors that are working on site have access to everything. If you know there's not an organics bin and a recycling bin next to each trash bin, and your employees are doing a great job sorting waste, you know, maybe each office has a paper recycling bin, but there's only an organics bin in the hallway or by the break room. As long as the waste is being sorted appropriately, that can be considered adequate, an adequate placement of waste. Now, if you know, a lot of your employees have Kleenex boxes in their office, or you have paper towels in certain areas, the used Kleenex and the paper towels, that is considered organic waste, and it has to go into the organics waste container. So you have to ask yourself, are my employees going to be bringing their used Kleenex to an organics bin that's down the hall, or do they need an organics bin in their office? So that's a decision that you need to make as a business. And again, is the city going to come and inspect every single square inch of your business? No, we can't. The state regulation says that we have to look and see how waste sorting is happening, but you know, we're not going to see everything. What we are going to see is what is happening at the recology bins outside your business. Those we are required to check. And if the city or ecology, whoever is doing the contamination monitoring, is looking in there and we're seeing a lot of paper towels, Kleenex, takeout food containers in the trash, those need to go into the organics. So if we're seeing a lot of contamination, we're going to follow up with businesses and say, okay, so your service inside, I think we might need a little more education for employees, or we might need some more bins. You know, how can we help you to get there? But that's the goal, is outside in those recology bins, stuff has to be sorted correctly. Okay, next slide, please. So the other part of the bin requirement is what CalRecycle is doing statewide, as I mentioned before, to make sure that it's very clear statewide what goes in each bin. So the state says that all bins must be either color-coded or clearly labeled. Now this applies to all bins purchased after January 1st. Okay, so if you've started purchasing bins, or you're going to purchase bins, they have to fall under one of these two. They have to either be color-coded or clearly labeled. So color-coded means trash bins have to be gray or black. Either the lid or the body of the bin, okay, have to be gray or black. Recycling has to be blue, and organics has to be green. And because we have paper and containers organics, you'll see the recycling carts that we had from Ecology that we showed before. The law actually says paper has to be darker blue and containers has to be lighter blue. I did check with the states. You can't actually find most bins like for indoor things in variety of shades of blue. So just blue is fine, but it does have to be those colors. If you want to go with the clearly labeled option, the clearly labeled, according to the state, means that the labels have to say what can and cannot go into those bins. So that can be through pictures, it can be through words, it can be through a variety. So what you see here in this pictures, these are the bins that the city has purchased for city facilities, because yes, this law applies to us too. So I'm working on getting all of our city facilities compliant, because we're not, nobody's compliant right now. We're all struggling and we're all going to do our best. So we've bought some bins and we bought some labels, and we're working on updating all of our bins as well. So here's the thing. So existing bins, so if you're thinking about the bins that you have in your business and you're like, great, they're not color coded and they're not, according to the state, clearly labeled, that's okay. Existing bins do not need to be replaced until 2036. This means if you have all 4 bins there, right? But like your organics bin is brown, your trash bin is, gray, your recycling bin is blue, and then you've got another bin that's for recycling and it's, pink or whatever. That's fine. As long as there's some indication on there of what goes in each bin so that people can tell, right? The idea is that people have to tell. So if someone goes, okay, well, where's the organics bin? Well, it's right there. As long as it says organics or compost or something, that's fine. So existing bins, they can be whatever color. So take bins, move them around, relabel them, anything that you currently already have. Do what you want with them. Any new bin that it's purchased, though, has to be color or label compliant. The city, we're going kind of above and beyond. We're trying to make ours color and label compliant whenever we can. They just have to be color or label compliant. Statewide, this is statewide. This is not just Davis. So this is something that statewide is happening. Next slide, please. So this is kind of what the city is doing for our facilities. Is they're going to have these bins with these labels, and I will get these labels on our website as PDF so that businesses can print them and make their own labels if they wish to as well. Next slide. So as far as what the city has as far as available resources to assist businesses. So yes, we have, as you can see here, this is from our website. We have a lot of PDFs that you can download to make your own labels and signs for bins. These signs are all SB 1383 compliant with the state's regulations. So we have a variety of those. And then, as I said, while supplies last, Recology has materials that they give away to businesses that the city provides, posters, bin labels, and bins that they can assist with. Next slide, please. Okay, annual education. So the third thing that businesses have to do, according to the state regulations, is provide annual education to their employees, tenants, and contractors about their waste sorting requirements and how to sort waste. So it's both things, but we have to sort waste and why we have to, and the fact that how to sort waste, right? So both things. So this education can be provided a variety of different ways, and I've got a good easy one for you if you'd like that I'll talk about on the next slide. The other thing is that if you have tenants, either commercial tenants, because you lease out buildings for commercial businesses, or residential tenants, you're a property manager, tenants need to receive annual education as well, but you also have to provide new tenants with information within 14 days of them occupying the premises. So if you have a new tenant come on board, either, again, a residential property or a new commercial tenant, you're required to provide this information to them within 14 days. So again, this information is about the requirement to sort waste and how to sort waste in Davis. Now, we'll talk about the resources that the city has to provide to make this easier for you in another slide. But that's the two things, the requirement to sort waste and how to sort waste, okay? The other part of it is that your businesses are required, again, part of the state regulation, I didn't make this up. Businesses are required to prohibit employees from placing recyclables and organic waste in the trash. What does that mean? Have a policy. Your policy here at this, at our business, we turn off the lights when we leave the room or whatever your business policies are. One of your policies for your employees is that employees sort waste properly. Recyclables don't get placed in the organics bin. Recyclables don't get placed in the trash. Put the recyclables into the correct bin, put the organics into the correct bin. It's just a policy that businesses, however you want to do it, is up to you. But the state doesn't really specify how that needs to happen. It just says that businesses need to prohibit employees from placing the stuff in the wrong bin. So it's up to you how you do that. Next slide, please. So here's the fun part, available resources. So the city has a variety of different things to make this easier for businesses, because we get it, this is a lot. The first thing we have on our website is downloadable flyers and posters. And this flyer in particular, that this has gone out with the information that we sent out to businesses, and it's on the business webpage, or on our city's webpage. So on davisrecycling.org, okay, that's where all the city's solid waste information is. We have a whole bunch of pages about SB 1383, but there's a particular page of interest, the business page for business information for SB 1383. And on that page, we have this flyer that checks that box as far as this is information about sorting waste in Davis, how we sort our waste. Okay, so that's one option that you can have. The other option is something that we just posted online this morning. We have an 8.5-minute video on YouTube that is a training guide that businesses can use to fulfill the requirements for education, because this video talks about both the requirement to sort waste and how we sort waste in Davis. So I encourage you to use this video as part of your annual training, because you can email it to your employees. You can play it as part of your monthly meetings or whatever, training meetings, because the video goes over all the details of why it's required to sort waste and then how you sort waste with pictures. These things go in these bins. And it makes it a little bit easier to provide that annual training. You can send this video to tenants as well. So hopefully that will be helpful for you. Next slide, please. Okay, the last portion that businesses need to be aware of for what the regulations require for them is what the state calls contamination monitoring. So the state requires that businesses regularly inspect trash, recycling, and organic waste for contamination. So this is looking into your bins. Now you can choose if you're only looking into the internal bins or the external bins. It's not specific. Your version of contamination monitoring could be just, yeah, I check the hallway occasionally as I'm walking and I just look and make sure stuff is sorted properly. So some form of quarterly contamination monitoring is what you're required to do. I recommend that you check the internal ones and the external ones, because the city is required to perform contamination monitoring on the Recology bins. So we are required to look into those bins that Recology provides you and see that things are being sorted properly. This is for all Recology customers, residents and businesses. And if we find contamination, again, the state regulation is so very specific. We have to follow up and provide education and make sure that stuff can start getting sorted correctly. So I recommend you check both the internal bins and the external bins, because internally you want to make sure that your employees are sorting waste properly, right? Externally, you need to make sure that whoever empties those bins is emptying them into the correct Recology bin, because you can have the best waste sorting possible happening in your office. But if whoever is collecting that waste, if they're not putting it into the correct Recology bin, you're still going to have some contamination happening. So part of this, the regulation says that if you find contamination, you have to remind employees about the proper waste sorting that they have to be doing. So that is literally what the regulation says. If contamination is found, remind your employees. So part of your quarterly process of monitoring contamination might be an email that goes out to everybody. Hey, just a reminder, we found a lot of cardboard in the trash. Let's make sure that we're putting that cardboard flattened and stacked in that area that's over here that we designated for cardboard. So however you want to do it, there's a variety of different options for you. But that's what we would recommend, is you're checking indoor and outdoor, and then send an email or, at your next meeting, or, when you see your staff, hey, just a reminder, the cardboard goes in the right spot, or however you want to do it. Next slide, please. So again, the available resources for this, we have the flyers and posters, and we have the training video that you can, again, send the training video out. Hey, just a reminder, check this video. Remember, this is how we sort waste in Davis. Or we can print the flyers or even email the flyers and go, remember, this is how we sort waste. Next slide, please. Okay, so that is the basics of what businesses are required to do under the SB 1383 regulations. I know that this is a lot. The state, it took the state how many years to get the regulations figured out so that we could actually have them. And we've been working on this since February 2021, and we're still trying to interpret the 172 pages worth of regulations and exactly what that means for Davis. We're going to have a lot more resources available on our website than we do currently, but we do have, like I said, the training video that gives a lot of information about that you can give to your employees. This webinar is recorded and will be posted online as well. We're working on creating another video that won't be quite as long as this. There'll be another short video that goes over those 4 main things for businesses that they need to know for compliance with the 1383 regulations. We'll be coming out with more flyers and posters and hopefully even like checklists and all sorts of resources to assist you. We get that this is a lot. I'm in charge of making sure that this works for the city of Davis as well. We've got a lot of buildings and facilities and a lot of employees. So this is a lot. Every single city and county in California is going through this right now. So it's a lot, we get that, but we're here to help. Yes, all these regulations went into effect January 1. We recognize that this is a marathon, not a sprint. We do not expect everybody to be completely compliant like that. It's going to take some time. What we just want to be able to see and to show the state, because the state will be performing inspections on the city to see our compliance with these regulations, is we want to see that we're all trying. We're all doing our best. We're trying to get bins. Yes, we know that COVID has all sorts of supply chain things right now, and your bins might be back ordered, or, you know, like me, your bins are there and they're ready to be distributed. We just need to be able to distribute them. So it's a process, but we are here to help with any questions that you might have about this process. So thank you for joining us for this webinar. We will be taking questions, but I want to thank Sarah for being here as well and providing that insight as for what Recology provides as service. And with that, I will open up for questions. So Dawn, if you could take a look and see if any of the audience has questions, you go ahead and raise your hand and we'll take questions.
You see a question here from Amanda Mason. I'm going to apologize in advance if I pronounce anyone's names incorrectly. Okay, Amanda, you should be able to unmute now.
There we go. Yes. So my question has to do with the liners for the bins, for the regular trash. Should those be compostable or biodegradable? Does it matter? This is for the regular.
That's a great question. Yeah, great question. So the liners for your trash bins can be whatever you want to use. I recommend honestly just using plastic, but you can use whatever you want for the trash bins. Technically, you can line any of your bins with whatever you want. The key is that plastic bags can only go into the trash. So if you're lining your recycling bins and your organic bins with plastic liners, which is completely fine if that's what you choose to do, you need to make sure that when those bins are emptied, the plastic liner does not go into the carts. The plastic liner has to go into the trash. So you can collect all of your stuff in a plastic lined bag or plastic lined bin, but then empty the contents into the correct cart, take out the bag and either reuse the bag or take out the bag and put it into the trash. If you want a system where you can just take the whole bag out and put it into the bin. So for organics, you need to use a compostable bag. Compostable or biodegradable bag is fine. And then it can go into the organics bin. There are no bags that can go into the containers cart. If you want to use a bag for a paper cart for the paper recycling, it has to be a paper bag.
I have
Hopefully that answered that
Elise.
question.
Allow Elise to talk. Elise, you should be able to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me? You want to ask?
I cannot hear Elise. I'm so sorry.
We're a hospital, and in all the patient rooms, we have to have individual. I don't understand why it's.
Okay, I can't quite hear you, but I think what you said is for hospitals in each patient room, do they have to have these bins? And the answer, as far as I am aware, is yes. It does apply to all business types. Now, I'd have to check. There was something that came out, an update, but I don't think it applied to hospitals. I think it was like extremely large events, that there was some other option available. But I can double check on that. If you want to send me a separate email, I will send an email to the CalRecycle team, the state folks that are doing all the detailed questions about this, just to double check, because I had another question from a hospital that came in last week too. And I wasn't able to find anything else in the state regulations that gave them an out. Because yes, I recognize that there's a lot of patient rooms, but I think it is still a requirement for all patient rooms to have the recycling and the organics as well. But I can check. If you send me an email, I can get back to you.
I have Sally Nyes.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you.
I just had a question about specific documentation for the training and the monitoring requirements. Are you guys preferring something like I get all employees to sign a document that says I attended the annual training, or I have a quarterly checkoff sign-off sheet that says the quarterly monitoring?
That's definitely a fantastic way to do your monitoring and your record keeping. That would be amazing. That's not.
Okay, I guess my
required,
question
but
was like,
amazing.
does the state want that like actual record keeping in that area, or is it just
Not
like?
from you, from us they do. You guys are good.
Oh,
We're required
okay.
to do that. No, what we've talked about, and we haven't finalized, but what the city's talked about is sending businesses something that helps you keep track of this. So like maybe it would be, and we're still trying to figure this out. And if you guys have ideas, shoot me an email. I'd love to hear. But our idea is something where we would send out a postcard and like, here's like, 3 dates where you would do contamination monitoring, and just write it down, the date that you did your monitoring, and a check for, this is your compliance checklist every year, right? Did I provide training to all my employees? Did I do my contamination monitoring quarter 1, 2, 3? Something just to make it easy for businesses to kind of keep track. And then that could be your record that like, look, no, I did a thing. Here's the dates. It's not required, but it's something that we've been thinking of to make it easier for businesses to keep track of. But it doesn't say that you have to keep track of it. It just, you have to do it. So
Okay, on like an
as long as-
annual basis is easier than quarterly.
Yeah, I get
Okay.
that. Yeah.
One last silly question. Shredded documents, that's paper shredded, is that organics or paper recycling?
It can be paper recycling or organics. I mean, Recology prefers to see that in the paper recycling,
Okay.
but you can put that in organics too if you want to.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Good questions. And there are no silly questions when it comes to these regulations. I call the state almost every single week with more questions. So no, there's no silly questions.
And really quick, when it comes to the shredded paper, it
Mhm.
does help to put it into a paper bag. So when it's emptied, it doesn't fly out of the truck and make a mess out in, the regular streets, but never a plastic bag.
Okay, sounds good.
I have a question here from Matt. Okay, Matt, you should be able to unmute.
Okay, Matt, go ahead and ask your question.
Sorry, I just realized I was muted.
Oh.
Hi. So I wanted to ask about menstruation products like tampons, pads. Is that going to be organic?
No, that's considered trash because it's mostly plastic, and that material is trash. Yes.
Okay.
That's why we don't have the organic spins in the stalls, only by the paper towels.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I have a question here from Tony Brandt. Tony, you should be able to unmute.
Yes, thank you. We have a medical building that we use a shred company to shred all of our paper and haul it that way. Just to be clear, that would require us to file for an exception through the city of Davis.
No, you can go ahead and keep on using your paper shredding company. That's fantastic. Paper shredding companies, they recycle their paper, so that's great. No, the only exemption that you would fill out is if you want to not have that paper recycling cart from Recology. And most businesses have more than just, the paper shredding, like they do a lot of the documents, but you're still going to have other paper products at your office that don't go through that document shredding. So you'll still want to have a paper recycling cart from Recology. So the only time you would put in the exemption form is if for whatever reason you don't want that cart. Like you truly think that you have no other paper that comes out of your business, you don't have space for that cart. We've talked with a few banks where that might be the circumstance. So that's when you would fill out that exemption form. Otherwise, use your paper shredding company. That's a fantastic way to go. You're good.
Got it.
I have Lacey Gimple. Lacey, you should be able to unmute.
I just wanted to follow up on the tampon and pad situation. So the commercial size tampons and pads, they come in paper or cardboard boxes. And so we have been putting those items in compost or paper. And then the used items go into the landfill bin. I just wanted to speak on that.
Yeah, boxes, product, any boxes that a product comes in, if it's paper or cardboard, should be recycled. Yes, you are correct. But the individual products themselves are usually plastic lined and then mostly plastic or plastic and cotton. Regardless, menstruation products in general, like diapers, it doesn't matter if it is a completely organic based product. It is not accepted in a composting facility. Composting facilities are not set up to take those kind of materials. But thank you. Fantastic questions. So we have about 10 more minutes left in our webinar. So I want to get to as many questions as we can, but if we run out of time, please feel free to email the city at the website that you see right there. Those questions come directly to me. I'd be happy to help you out with any other questions that you have.
I'm not currently seeing any other hands raised.
Okay, we can give it a few more minutes then, but we will have this webinar posted online. I'm hoping to get it posted this afternoon if I can. And then participants can receive, will be receiving an email with the link to the recording as well, and the other resources that we have so that you can access this and the other resources that we have online. Okay, well, with that, thank you all very much for coming. I really appreciate your questions and your participation in this webinar. I know that this is a lot. These regulations are quite a bit to tackle, but I am here as a resource, and Sarah is here to assist with waste audits. So please, if there's anything that we can help you with, any questions, clarification, please reach out. If you're thinking that, hey, that'd be really great if the city just had this available to help businesses, like this type of a document or something, please let us know. We're trying to do whatever we can to help businesses because we get that this is a lot to have to deal with. So thank you all. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for attending our webinar.
Thank you, everybody, for attending.